This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5 o'clock. Good morning. It is Monday, June 23rd. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. A mix of sun and clouds today, hot and humid. You probably know what the drill is going to be for the next couple of days. We are in the midst of a heat wave. The high 96 today. Tonight and overnight, some clouds, low 79. And then tomorrow, sunshine for primary day. We could hit 101. Yikes. If you are walking out the door with us right now, 77 and clear in Valley Cottage up in Rockland County. It's 80 and clear in Clark over in New Jersey. And it's 79 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
The Big Apple is gonna bake. How will Iran respond? Can Zohran Mamdani pull off a primary day upset? A subway rider says she and her baby were pepper sprayed. New Yorkers stuck in Israel say they don't know when they'll be back home. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. We'll start with the fact that we are in the midst of our first heat wave of the summer. Temperatures will flirt with 100 degrees tomorrow. National Weather Service issuing this extreme heat warning for New York City, tri-state area. This is through Tuesday, but we're going to be in the 90s through Wednesday. And then actually the end of the week, it gets cooler. So it's just a couple days, but it's always intense getting on a subway, walking around the city when it feels like it's 105 degrees, which it will feel like later today. The mayor going to Twitter to warn New Yorkers, X, which is formerly known as Twitter, going to X to tell New Yorkers, just really got to be careful and look after one another over the next 72 hours or so.
We're going to have several days with close to 100 degrees temperature. And so you need to take real precaution. We're going to open our cooling centers. They're free. You should utilize them. And if you're in a home with an air conditioner, please turn it on. And at the same time, check on your family members. Make sure not only your pets, but also family members are dealing with the heat.
Yeah, so this heat is being powered by this ridge of high pressure that's pulling hot air across the eastern half of the nation. So it's always good to know everybody else on the East Coast is dealing with this stuff as well. New York City cooling centers will be open. So God forbid if you don't have air conditioning, 100% you should go to one of these cooling centers during the day. There are libraries, community centers, senior citizen centers. They are all open to the public and will be all day long. If you're unsure, you can call 311 or go to the city's website. It'll display all the different locations across the city where you can cool off.
Go to newyorkcity.gov/beattheheat or call 311 if you need any help at all. Look after each other. Look after yourself.
Of course, we'll monitor this over the next 2 days or so. Of course, always the big issue when it gets so hot like this is the power and keeping the power on. So far, so good. It's nice and beautiful, at least here in the 77 WABC studios. 5:03. Yesterday, the final day of early voting ahead of Tuesday's primary. The New York City Board of Elections says about 385,000 New Yorkers cast ballots during the 8 days of early voting. Democratic candidates were out making their final pitches yesterday. Zohran Mamdani, part of a Democratic Socialist rally in Crown Heights yesterday.
This city can actually be affordable. And this city deserves a mayor who will freeze the, make buses fast and deliver universal.
Yeah, so he's also campaigning on free child care and nonprofit grocery stores. It's not clear, of course, who would pay for all of that. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo spoke at a luncheon yesterday.
We lost 500,000 people in New York City since COVID. 500,000. Disproportionately the wealthiest, because because they left because of the taxes.
Now, of course, a lot of those people left while Governor Cuomo was in office. New York Working Families Party, they've been telling people to rank Adrian Adams, Brad Lander, and Zohran Mamdani, and to leave Cuomo out of the choice rank voting. So, ranked choice voting. Here was Brad Lander yesterday.
We got a city hall so corrupt, it's going to need to be cleaned out with a power washer. Working families bring a power washer. Andrew Cuomo just brings in more corruption.
All right, so about 4 of the mayoral candidates were up with Al Sharpton yesterday or over the weekend at the National Action Network trying to get his endorsement. And then there was just a lot of early voters, people who are excited about the candidate they're voting for.
The earlier, the better. It's less crowds, less, confusion, and everybody get out and vote. Don't complain if you don't vote.
Okay, so here is the issue for the campaigns going forward. Is tomorrow's primary day, and it's going to be the hottest day of the year. Hottest day of the year in New York in maybe a number of years where it will be 101 degrees. And guess what happens? Voters, if it's too hot or too cold, they don't sometimes go to the polls. So the candidates were trying to push those voters to the early primary hours that ended yesterday, early primary days, early voting days. Clearly, they got a fair amount of them there. But now, of course, the push will be on to get people to their voting booth on a day where it's 101 degrees. That'll be interesting to watch tomorrow. And, of course, follow it all right here, 77 WABC. And at 9 o'clock tomorrow night, we will have the election results as they come in. Katz and Cosby hosting that. Make sure you're tuning in, 77 WABC. 5:06. Okay, the big story over the weekend. Iran gets their nuke sites bombed by the U.S. Iran's foreign minister today headed to Moscow for urgent talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
According to media reports, Minister of Iranian Foreign Affairs Abbas Araghchi told reporters in Istanbul on Sunday that Iran and Russia have a strategic partnership and always consult with each other as close allies. The Kremlin has helped Iran with its civilian nuclear program in exchange for supplying Russia with military drones for its war in Ukraine. I'm Lisa Carton.
No doubt the U.S. will be watching that meeting very closely. Lots of thanks from the Israelis for what President Trump did to those nuclear facilities in Iran over the weekend. Here was Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons.
Netanyahu says Trump's decision to strike Iran will change history. The move to strike Iran, of course, comes as Israel and Iran have been going back and forth, striking each other for more than a week. In a post on Truth Social yesterday, the president said Iran must now agree to end this war. Meanwhile, Netanyahu congratulating the president and the American military for what they did against those 3 Iranian nuclear facilities.
Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history. President Trump and I often say, peace through strength. First comes strength, then comes...
WABC News Time 509. President Trump appears to be supporting the idea of possible regime change in Iran. In a post on Truth Social last night, he says if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be regime change? It's something, of course, the Israelis are on board with as well. Here's the UN ambassador, Danny Danone.
We are praying for a new leadership for the Iranian people. It will bring stability to the region, but it's up to them to decide when it will happen, how it will happen, but definitely it will be better for all of us. It's an internal decision of the people of Iran, and they have to think what they want to do and how to do it. We know our goal is to make sure they will not have the capabilities, mainly the nuclear capabilities and the ballistic missiles, to threaten us.
All right, so on Saturday night, President Trump holding that very quick speech around 10 o'clock Saturday night to tell us what had taken place. Then yesterday, the Pentagon gave us some more details about what's being called Operation Midnight Hammer. Largest B-2 bomber strike in U.S. history. That, according to the Pentagon, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says President Trump's decision to hit Iran was bold and brilliant.
Nuclear ambitions have been obliterated.
Then we found out more about these Iranian nuclear facilities, including a fortified one. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, says the destruction to the facilities was substantial and more will be known in the coming days.
Final battle damage will take some time, but initial battle damage assessments indicate that all three sites sustained extremely severe damage and destruction.
Kane says the operation top secret. Very few people in Washington knew of the plan that also involved U.S. submarines launching those Tomahawk missiles.
The main strike package, comprised of 7 B-2 Spirit bombers, each with 2 crew members, proceeded quietly to the east with minimal communications. All 3 Iranian nuclear infrastructure targets were struck between 6:40 p.m. and 7:05 p.m.
And General Kane says the U.S. fooled Iran during this attack.
As the Operation Midnight Hammer strike package entered Iranian airspace, the U.S. employed several deception tactics, including decoys. As the strike package approached Fordow and Natanz, the U.S. protection package employed high-speed suppression weapons to ensure safe passage of the strike package.
Yeah, when you see what took place, you really realize, wow, the might of the American military. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth praising his troops, praising the president.
For the entirety of his time in office, President Trump has consistently stated for over 10 years that Iran must not get a nuclear weapon.
Okay, so they hit these nuke sites. So is there a worry about radiation? A UN nuclear watchdog agency says there's been no increase in radiation levels at the 3 Iranian nuclear sites that were bombed by the U.S. Saturday.
The U.S. military sent B-2 bombers into Iran on Saturday with a number of penetrator bombs known as bunker busters intended to reach underground nuclear sites. Early Sunday, the UN's International Atomic Energy Agency released a statement saying it could confirm that, quote, no increase in off-site radiation levels has been reported as of this time at the 3 sites. The agency maintains that it's a neutral global watchdog. I'm Jim Forbes.
Some Democrats pushing back about what took place Saturday. One of President Trump's most vocal critics is Senator Bernie Sanders. He was actually holding a rally Saturday night when they found out about what had taken place in Iran.
And I want to tell you something. Not only is this news that I've just heard this second alarming, that all of you have just heard, but it is so grossly unconstitutional. All of you know.
Yeah, and he went on to say that only Congress has the power to do what the president did on Saturday night.
The only entity that can take this country to war is the U.S. Congress. The president does not have the right.
5:14, and then it was the news shows yesterday, everybody making their case either for or against what had taken place Saturday night. Vice President J.D. Vance, he was on ABC's This Week. He says the attack does not mean a drawn-out conflict with Iran.
I'd say to people who are worried about a protracted military conflict is, number one, the president, more than anybody, is worried about protracted military conflicts. That is not what we're getting ourselves involved in.
And the vice president says the country's objective remains very firm.
Well, first of all, we don't want to achieve regime change. We want to achieve the end of the Iranian nuclear program, John. That's America's objective, and that's what the president has set us out to do.
Okay, so the vice president on the news show, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, also they put him on CBS Face the Nation. Rubio says the ball is now in Iran's court when it comes to negotiating.
If they choose the path of diplomacy, we're ready. We can do a deal that's good for them, the Iranian people, and good for the world. Yeah. If they choose another route, then there'll be consequences for that.
And Rubio says the country's goal is straightforward.
Our national interest is about one thing, and that is Iran not getting anywhere near the capability to weaponize and have nuclear weapons.
And Israeli President Isaac Herzog, he took to the news shows as well over the weekend to thank the U.S. He was on CNN's State of the Nation. He says the action taken by the U.S. is a turning point that could reshape the future of the region.
It's a historic decision, outstanding decision that clearly can shift the direction of the Middle East to a much better future.
Okay, now in a moment, we'll get the response here in New York City from protesters from the NYPD and the mayor. We'll do that in just a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Good morning to you, Noam Laden. We'll start here on the hardwood. Your final from Oklahoma City, the Thunder beating the Pacers 103-91 in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and that means they are your NBA champs. Good for the first in the franchise's 17 years since moving to OKC. Despite the Thunder's accomplishment, Game 7 might be most remembered for an unfortunate reason, as Pacers superstar Tyrese Halliburton suffered what his father confirmed was a right Achilles injury while trying to dive to the basket. With just under 5 minutes left in the first quarter, he would be ruled out for the rest of the game a short time later because of the injury. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, meanwhile, capped his historic season with 29 points and 12 assists to hit a rare superfecta of honors: regular season MVP, finals MVP, NBA champion, and scoring champion. Also out of the NBA yesterday, the Phoenix Suns have agreed to a blockbuster trade, sending 15-time NBA All-Star Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the number 10 pick in this year's draft, and 5 second-round picks. The trade can be formally completed when the league year begins on July 6th. To the MLB, in the Bronx, Jazz Chisholm Jr. hit a go-ahead 2-run double off the right center field wall in a 3-run eighth inning, leading the Yankees over the Baltimore Orioles 4-2. New York won its second straight after losing 7 of its previous 8 games, taking the weekend set over Baltimore in the process. Starter Will Warren gave up 2 runs and 6 hits in 6 1/3 innings of work. New York had been 1-22 when trailing after 7 innings up until yesterday. Up next for the Yankees, rookie right-handed pitcher Alan Winans makes his New York and season debut tonight in Cincinnati, with the Yankees set to open a 3-game interleague series against the Reds. First pitch there is scheduled for 7:10 p.m. As for the Mets, they fell 7-1 to the Phillies in the finale of a 3-game series in Philly, surrendering the series and first place in the NL East in the process. Francisco Lindor homered late for the Mets, who've lost 8 of 9. New York had won 28 straight games in which Lindor homered up until yesterday's loss, one shy of the major league record. Starter David Peterson didn't come out for the 5th inning after needing 72 pitches to get through 4, yielding 5 runs in that 4th inning when Philadelphia did most of their damage. Up next for the Mets, Paul Blackburn starts tonight back at home against Atlanta in the opener of a 4-game series against the Braves. First pitch there is scheduled for 7:10 p.m. from Citi Field. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:20. Demonstrators hitting the streets here in the city yesterday in opposition to the U.S. bombing of Iran, less than 24 hours after the president announced that attack on 3 nuclear sites there.
I'm afraid that we will see a World War III that could be nuclear in its outcome. This is not just Trump's throwing a bunch of bombs in Iran. Iran is a massive nation.
I will point out this was not a huge protest. There was a fair amount of people there. Protesters criticized the bombing, calling it an act of war, not diplomacy.
But if you notice with the Democrats, the party who told us that they were so much different than Trump, they're not making these pleas for peace. They're not saying Trump end this war, don't drag the U.S. into a global war. They're concerned about him consulting promise. They're concerned about him dotting his I's and crossing his T's.
And for people who are in the Middle East trying to get back home, we're hearing all these stories of people stuck in Israel. In the next half hour, we'll hear from some Long Islanders who can't get out. And now airlines are considering how long to cancel flights in the Middle East after this attack.
The airspace was already contentious due to the ongoing exchange of missiles and strikes between Israel and Iran. The region has become especially important for commercial air routes due to Russian and Ukrainian airspace mostly closed because of their war. Some carriers like Singapore Airlines and British Airways are set to resume flights to Dubai today. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
The U.S. ambassador to the UN was called to the UN to defend the strikes on Iran. At the Security Council meeting yesterday, Dorothy Camille Shea says for 40 years, the Iranian government has called for death to America and death to Israel.
The time finally came for the United States, in the defense of its ally and in the defense of our own citizens and interest, to act decisively.
The ambassador urging the UN to call for Iran to terminate its drive for nuclear weapons.
Let us be clear. Iran should not escalate. As President Trump said, any Iranian attack direct or indirect, against Americans or American bases will be met with devastating retaliation.
Okay, the markets, of course, reopen at 9 o'clock, 9:30 this morning. So what does this all mean for the price of oil and what you'll pay at the pump? WABC's Joe Connolly has more on that.
U.S.-produced oil has risen in price around 10% in the last week and a half. Oil from other parts of the world has risen slightly more. The much higher U.S. oil production in recent years may help to limit gasoline price increases if Iran blocks or attacks shipping in the Persian Gulf. But that's also where they get most of their money, shipping their oil to China. The U.S. is asking China to prevent Iran from blocking the Strait of Hormuz, the waterway to the Persian Gulf and to the open ocean, in order to keep oil supplies worldwide normal. As of Sunday afternoon, Middle East time, oil tankers were still moving in both directions in the Strait of Hormuz. As much as two-thirds of the oil produced in the U.S. is now sold here in the U.S. and is not exported. The U.S. also imports a lot of oil from Canada. Joe Connolly, 77 WABC News.
Of course, it is the summer travel season. So many Americans planning to go with their families abroad, Europe, maybe even the Middle East. So the State Department now issuing a worldwide caution security alert.
The State Department says the conflict between Israel and Iran has resulted in disruptions to travel and periodic closure of airspace across the Middle East. In its alert, the State Department advised U.S. citizens worldwide to exercise increased caution. It follows the Department of Homeland Security's issuance of a National Terrorism Advisory System Bulletin. Iranian officials have been warned about retaliating against the U.S. after this weekend's airstrikes on their nuclear facilities. I'm Mark Mayfield.
WABC News Time 524. Mahmoud Khalil, the Columbia University grad student, pro-Palestinian activist, released on Friday from ICE detention. They held a rally for him here in Manhattan yesterday. He says now that he's out, he won't be silent.
Just the fact that I am here, it's a message. The fact that all these attempts to suppress pro-Palestine voices have failed now. So this is the message.
Mahmoud Khalil arrived at Newark Airport. That was on Saturday, one day after he was released from a detention center in Louisiana following a federal judge's order. He spoke to reporters, joined by his wife. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was there as well. And he says he wasn't treated well by ICE agents. He, of course, didn't like his time behind bars, but he says he'll continue to talk about what's happening in Gaza.
This is what the administration is trying to do, to dehumanize me, to dehumanize the immigrants, to dehumanize anyone who actually does not agree.
Now, the Trump White House has filed a notice of appeal against the judge's ruling that released Khalil, and they hope that'll go in their direction. 525, out to California. Home Depot has become a big place for ICE agents to make arrests of illegal aliens that are here. Two Home Depot stores were the site of ICE raids in Los Angeles over the weekend. This man says his brother was detained despite being a U.S. citizen.
He was just here to do a delivery, pick up a delivery and take it to the customer, but he wasn't able to do that because he got detained. I'm not sure of what the exact reasons for why that was.
There were raids that took place at Home Depot stores in Hollywood and San Fernando over the weekend. Actually, some of them started as early as Thursday and Friday of last week. One of them was the store on Sunset Boulevard.
I don't know what is the crime she committed because she been here like 25 years selling pollo asado, carne asada for all community.
This man says there was no reason for ICE agents to take his sister into custody, but clearly they were waiting for these people to show up.
So sad because I saw the video and they catch her like a criminal. She's not criminal. She's just like everybody trying to get food to the table, bring some money to pay the bill. That's it.
WABC News Time 526. France's blood supply agency has announced that a French woman from the Caribbean island of Guadeloupe is the only known carrier of a new blood type.
It's called Guana negative. The French blood establishment said on Friday that the discovery was made 15 years after researchers received a blood sample from a patient who was undergoing routine tests before a surgery. The agency posted on LinkedIn, writing, "The EFS has just discovered the 48th blood group system in the world." The EFS went on to say the discovery was officially recognized by the International Society of Blood Transfusion in early June. The EFS says finding new blood groups means giving patients with rare blood types better care. I'm Mark Mayfield.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Monday, June 23rd. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. A mix of sun and clouds today. Hot and humid. High 96. Tonight and overnight, some clouds, low 79, and then even warmer for Tuesday. Sunshine, high 101. If you're walking out the door with us right now, it's 77 and clear in Valley Cottage up in Rockland County. It's 80 and clear in Clark over in New Jersey. And it's 79 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. You almost lost your beloved News Hour host over the weekend. My wife and I were headed up to Treadwell, New York for a weekend away with some friends who have a house up there. And so without the kids, and I'm embarrassed to say, I think it's the first vacation alone the two of us had taken in years and years and years. And it was just a long weekend. And maybe about halfway of the ride, a 3-hour ride, I told my wife I was tired. Let's switch places. You drive. I get into the passenger seat. She gets into the driver's seat. And about 20 minutes later, I wake up and I'm lying on the side of a highway in Goshen, New York, with a man holding my hand, telling me I'm going to be okay. And it was in that moment that he explained to me that I had been in a head-on collision with another car in Goshen. Now, the good news is everybody seems to be okay. The car is just, I should post a picture of it. I mean, it is gone, but who cares about a stupid car? But I can't even tell you how great the people in Goshen were. So this Good Samaritan, who I didn't get a chance to thank because I was so out of it, who held my hand and said, EMTs and police are on the way. Don't worry. If you're really hurt, they'll take care of you. He was the one who communicated with my wife, who was in the car screaming, because she thought I was dead on the side of the road, begging them to find out if I was okay. He was communicating between her before the police arrived to tell her that I was okay. I was just lying on the ground waiting for the police to arrive and the EMTs. And boy, when they got there, I thank them there, but, and I'm going to try to figure out another way to thank them. But the Goshen police, the EMTs who put me into the ambulance, who checked all my vitals, they were fantastic. And I know that's just part of their job. They do it every single day. But when you're in that moment of panic and fear and shock, and you have these people who are just so lovely and gracious and taking care of you, and I just felt taken care of. It's a reminder of how great they are at what they do. So the good news is, there was one person in the other car. We were told that she is okay. My wife and I are very banged up. I mean, I'm definitely in a lot of pain today, but I'm alive and I'm okay. And I have some cuts and bruises, but I'm going to be fine. I guess we'll go out and get a new car. But the key is, and I'm going to figure out a way to do it, if I can find those Good Samaritans who raced to help my wife and I and this woman in the other car. I really want to thank them. And of course, the EMTs, the police in Goshen, amazing, fantastic, wonderful people, just like they are all across the country. But in that moment when you really need them, boy, did they come through. I mean, they were amazing. All right, enough about me. 538 traffic, transit. Here's Joe Nolan.
Thank God you're good, man. Thank God.
Yeah.
People die every day on the roads like that in head-on accidents. Wow.
And if I showed you the car, I mean, the police officer said to me after he saw I was all okay, he goes, when I pulled up to the scene, I thought for sure there was going to be a fatality here because the car was in bad shape. So I guess I will point out that the car was what saved me too, by the way. I mean, I'm not looking for a commercial here, but I was in a Honda CRV and we just got in the car and, it did what it was supposed to do. It saved our lives,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
WABC News Time 540. It'll be about the heat wave here in New York City through Wednesday. It's going to feel like about 100 degrees today. People getting ready.
Truthfully, is anybody really ever ready for the heat? I don't think so.
You see the suit I got on? I got to wear this. It's hot.
I'm used to it.
It's whatever. It's New York City. I wear a sweater every day, even in 100 degrees.
Okay, you're out of your mind. The State Health Department working with the emergency managers to ensure everyone has access to cooling centers across the strait, across New York City. For sure, if you don't have heat today, or rather air conditioning today, you should reach out to one of these cooling centers, spend the day there.
I know New Yorkers are tough. We like to think we're really tough. But this is not your run-of-the-mill hot summer week. It's truly not.
Yeah, that's Governor Hochul. Extreme humidity hitting a good portion of the country, so we're not alone. She says temperatures will intensify, especially tomorrow, primary day, where it could be 101 degrees.
So we're facing 4 to 5 straight days of blistering hot heat. That's why preparation, communication, and other precautions can save lives. Stay indoors. You'll get back on your normal schedules. Life will return. But this is a critically important week to be smart for you and your families.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is you'll sweat it out getting on a subway or a bus or trying to get around the city today. Our cooling centers open throughout the 5 boroughs, by the way, in New Jersey and New York as well. But if you're here in the city, dial 311 or go to the city's website to find the nearest cooling center near you. 542 rival Democratic primary candidates for mayor hit neighborhoods all over the 5 boroughs over the weekend as they tried to get their voters out for early voting, which ended yesterday. City Comptroller Brad Lander, City Council Speaker Adrienne Adams, and Queens Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani made a pilgrimage to the National Action Network over the weekend to get the blessing from the Reverend Al Sharpton. Then on the Upper West Side, Brad Lander took time to remind New Yorkers of Cuomo's tenure in office, and he brought some of the women who were accused Cuomo of misconduct to this press conference yesterday to remind New Yorkers of why he left office. Here was Brad Lander.
This is about the future. We are working today to make sure we don't have a mayor who sexually harasses more young City Hall staffers.
In Jackson Heights, Zohran Mamdani said the heat was not keeping his supporters from the polls yesterday.
We're running across New York City borough to borough, and we're letting New Yorkers know what's on the ballot. And we're seeing unprecedented excitement across so many of the same New Yorkers who haven't voted before, who haven't seen themselves in their politics before.
And Andrew Cuomo, who has been leading the pack in all the polls so far, stood with the mother of the slain teen Junior Guzman Feliz, who was killed in 2018 in that gang violence-related incident. And he said that first he gave her his condolences and then slammed Zohran Mamdani's past criticism of the NYPD.
People don't feel safe in the city. Nothing else really matters. In an interview, he said, I'm in favor of defunding the police. And when asked if he would support removing police altogether from high crime areas, he said yes.
New York City Board of Elections says about 385,000 people cast a ballot in the first 8 days of early voting, which ended yesterday. Of course, tomorrow's primary day. And as you watched Zohran Mamdani out on the campaign trail this weekend, he was flanked by extra security because he's received some death threats over the last couple weeks.
We are talking about threats to my life, threats to the life of my family members, the people that I love.
And he was blaming Cuomo for some of those threats. He says the campaign has been too harsh against him.
If you design mailers that artificially lengthen and darken my beard, if you blanket this city's airwaves with language of me being dangerous and a radical.
Yeah, so that security going to stick with them at least through Tuesday. By the way, speaking of Tuesday, of course, tomorrow's primary day. Make sure you're here at 9 o'clock when the polls close, a very special edition of Katz and Cosby. They'll go through all the numbers, through the winners, speak to, I'm sure, some of the mayoral candidates. That all starts 9 o'clock tomorrow night right here on 77 WABC. Coming up on 5:45, time for a little sports action. Big night for the Thunder. Justin Ellick, no? Yeah?
Oh, yeah, big time. They're national champs. How about that?
They are. National, I guess they're world champs? How does that work?
Yeah, no, world champs. Yeah. You know, I mean, I don't think the France national team or the French national team is
could beat the Oklahoma Thunder
in a 7-game set. No, Layden? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, that'd be actually a fun series to watch.
Maybe they should do that. Maybe we're onto something. You should have an NBA champion, and then they go on and take on world powers to see if they could beat them.
Right, like in, exhibition games. Why not?
Yeah, I'd watch that.
Yeah, over the course of the summer. I mean, you just have to get these NBA guys off the golf course or wherever they are, off the beach.
It'd be better than those dopey G League games. I mean, nobody watches those.
Oh, so. Without a doubt. Nobody. My God. Are you kidding me? Anyway, the Thunder beating the Pacers last night 103-91 in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. They win that series, and it's good for their first in the franchise's 17 years since moving to OKC. Despite the Thunder's accomplishment, Game 7 might be most remembered for an unfortunate reason, as Pacers superstar Tyrese Halliburton suffered what his father confirmed was a right Achilles injury while trying to dive to the basket, with just under 5 minutes left in the first quarter. He would be ruled out for the rest of the game a short time later because of the injury. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, meanwhile, capped his historic season with 29 points and 12 assists to hit a rare superfecta of honors: regular season MVP, finals MVP, NBA champion, and scoring champion. Also out of the NBA yesterday, the Phoenix Suns have agreed to a blockbuster trade, sending 15-time NBA All-Star Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the number 10 pick in this year's draft, and 5 second-round picks. The trade can be formally completed when the new league year begins on July 6th. To the diamond in the Bronx, Jazz Chisholm Jr. hit a go-ahead 2-run double off the right center field wall in a 3-run eighth inning, leading the Yankees over the Orioles 4-2. New York won its second straight after losing 7 of its previous 8 games, taking the weekend set over Baltimore in the process. Starter Will Warren gave up 2 runs and 6 hits in his 6 1/3 innings of work. New York had been 1-22 when trailing after 7 innings up until yesterday's win. Up next for the Yankees, rookie right-hander Alan Winans makes his New York and season debut tonight in Cincinnati, with the Yankees set to open a 3-game interleague series against the Reds. First pitch there is scheduled for 7:10 p.m. As for the Mets, they fell 7-1 to the Phillies in the finale of a 3-game series in Philadelphia, surrendering the series and first place in the NL East in the process. Francisco Lindor homered late for the Mets, who have lost 8 of 9. New York had won 28 straight games in which Lindor homered up until yesterday, one shy of the Major League record. David Peterson started and come out for the 5th after needing 72 pitches to get through 4 innings, yielding 5 runs in that 4th, when Philly did most of their damage. Up next for the Mets, Paul Blackburn gets a start tonight at home against Atlanta in the opener of a 4-game series. First pitch there is scheduled for 7:10 from Citi Field. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. Mayor Adams taking part in a security briefing yesterday to discuss concerns after the hits on the nuclear sites in Iran. There's no specific threats against New York City, but of course they don't take any chances. NYPD increasing its presence at religious sites throughout the city. It was all about, of course, Operation Midnight Hammer. So the NYPD top brass, got together yesterday along with the mayor. We do have, and this goes back after the 9/11 attacks, we have officers embedded in places in the Middle East, in Israel, Jordan, the UAE, and Qatar, all to sort of watch what's going on overseas and report back to the NYPD. That's still in place today. Here was the mayor yesterday.
We have NYPD law enforcement personnel that they are assigned in this region, so that's extremely helpful for us to get firsthand information. We're going to ensure that we focus on sleeper cells, because that's crucial to do so.
So right now, authorities stressing there's no credible threats against the city, but it is back to those days. If you see something, say something. Governor Hochul says counter-terrorism protections have been put in place all across the state for that matter.
Hochul says that while there is no specific or credible threat, she acknowledges that New York has large Jewish and Muslim communities and that her top priority is the safety of New Yorkers. In a statement, she went on to say that she's been in close contact with state police, Homeland Security, as well as counterterrorism and cybersecurity experts. She added, as a precaution, the MTA and Port Authority are partnering with local law enforcement and the state police and will continue safety patrols outside houses of worship and other at-risk sites. I'm Lisa Salvati.
5:51, 14 people hospitalized last night. Rough night for the FDNY as a fire spread through a multifamily home up in the Bronx. Flames broke out at this home on DeVoe Terrace between Webb Avenue and 190th Street. This was about 8 o'clock last night. Spread to 2 other multifamily homes, reached 5 alarms.
They was helping some old lady that she was on an oxygen tank and she was on a walker, and it said they was helping them out.
Now, the initial thought here, because there was a lot of people who lived in these buildings, say that people parked parked those electric bikes in front of these homes, and that the batteries, these second-rate batteries, we've seen these fires so many times, were the ones that started the fire and made them bigger. What happens a lot of times when these batteries catch fire is they're so explosive that the fire moves much more quickly than it normally would, and that's what happened in the Bronx last night.
They have a lot of old scooters on the porch.
Oh, they have old scooters in front of the porch. One of those batteries could have. We don't know.
The fire was on the front, the whole front.
Yes, so 12 firefighters, including at least one member of the FDNY EMS, and 2 civilians are in the hospital. One of those firefighters is in critical condition. We have not gotten an update this morning. The other injuries, thankfully, are considered so far non-life-threatening. A young mom's sense of safety shattered over the weekend after she and her baby were attacked in the subway in what she believes to be pepper spray attack, all because she would not let the attacker use her phone. The mother spoke to Eyewitness News about her ordeal after being released from the hospital in Astoria. The 25-year-old mom says she had briefly interacted with this guy who later attacked her on the platform at the 36th Street station. And she says the man said, "Can I borrow your phone?" And she said, "No, you can't have my phone." So when they got on the M train, this guy got on behind her in Long Island City, and out of the blue, he attacked her and her 11-month-old baby with what she believes to be pepper spray.
I just came out of nowhere and he threw us pepper spray to me and my child. I was just crying, thinking about my baby, trying to relax myself, trying to calm myself, because if I will be more nervous, it's nothing. It was not going to be worth it, to be honest. So I was just trying to calm myself, but at the same time, I was really, really scary. I was crying.
The mother-daughter treated at Mount Sinai, Queens. They released a few hours later. While the mom and baby are okay physically, the mother says the random attack, of course, has shaken her sense of security.
People, they just come to you out of nowhere and trying to do something bad to you, and the only thing that you're trying to get is home. This is something that I can't even think about it anymore, that I'm just trying to be calm.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of creep goes after a mom holding a baby? But so far, there's pictures of them, by the way, and we'll put them up at WABCRadio.com. But so far, there is no sign of them this morning. An arrest has been made in a deadly hit and run on Long Island.
A woman from Virginia is facing charges for a fatal hit and run that killed a Hamptons real estate agent. 32-year-old Amanda Kempton pleaded not guilty and told Southampton court she thought she hit a traffic cone. Sarah Burrock, a realtor who was featured in Netflix's $1 Million Beach House, was struck and killed on Montauk Highway this past Thursday. Authorities used a license plate reader to track down Kempton. She faces 7 years in prison if found guilty. I'm Liz Radabali for 77 WABC News.
When those missiles started to fly from Iran into Israel about 7 or 8 days ago, there were a fair amount of tourists who were there, and a lot of them right from the tri-state area. One of them is Robert Reichelmeyer. He and his family from Comac, Long Island, were in Israel on a vacation when those missiles started to fly, and they have been unable to find a flight back to the U.S. because almost all those flights have been canceled. Now, El Al has announced today that they'll start sending some flights back to the U.S., but the max passengers, though, allowed on those planes will be about 50 or so. Reichelmeyer says that the U.S. Embassy has not been very helpful. He says New York's 2 senators, Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand, have not gotten back to him about requests for help.
We have suffered dozens of actual attacks, resulting in us having to go to basements.
So Reichelmeyer says he and a lot of other U.S. citizens, a fair amount of them again from the tri-state, are stuck in Israel today, and they don't have any idea when they'll be able to get back home. Now, missiles continue to fly. There was a lot of them already this morning coming from Iran. Some of them got through, and so you can't open the airport when there's missiles in the air. And I guess he understands that, but he says he's seen other Americans get out. He's wondering why he's not getting help getting out.
We have not heard a single word from either senator, both publicly or privately, via email, text, or telephonically, in response to our cries for help.
And of course, Rush Limbaugh says it's spending money too. You're stuck somewhere, you got to find a hotel, meals, that kind of thing. He says it's been tough for him and the other families that are stuck there. Again, El Al announcing, I think it was this morning, that they will send planes to the U.S. with a max of 50 passengers on board. And of course, normally those flights have hundreds of people on board.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?